But once you understand what you like and what you're good at and what's actually going to create revenue and what actually works, then you start setting real concrete goals. And now your job is to make sure that every decision that you make is in alignment with that goal. Anything that you choose to take on that's no longer in alignment with that goal will distract you from where you're going. And so what happens is we get really great ideas. What about this? Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do this. And then all of these things are going to be distractions from where you wanted to be in the first place. And so the biggest setbacks for me have been times of distraction.
If you've been listening to our show, one of your goals is likely to achieve financial freedom. That may mean retiring from your 9-to-5 or being able to travel the world for months at a time. Both designing and living your dream lifestyle is truly possible. We had a chance to sit down this week with Alfonso Cuadra to talk about success by design and leveling up as a real estate investor. You're listening to the Black Wealth Effect podcast, where we're all about inspiring the next generation of Black Canadian real estate investors to succeed financially. If you're tuned in, that means you're hungry to take action and build wealth outside of your 9-to-5. We'll be sitting down with Black real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and allies to discuss a diverse set of topics to help you along your investing journey. Let's get started.
Welcome back to another episode on the Black Wealth Effect podcast. Today we have a special guest with us, the godfather of real estate investing here in Canada, the one, the only, Mr. Alfonso Cuadra. Alfonso, thank you for being on the podcast with us today. How are you feeling today?
Oh, I'm feeling good, man. And you're sounding smooth.
Yeah,
my man's like, hey, this is like the DJ hour.
I'm working on the radio voice,
No, I'm doing amazing, guys. It's an incredible time that we're living here right now. This is obviously time-stamped. And so, for all your viewers, that all your viewers and listeners that are listening to this right now, what we want to talk about today is the biggest opportunity in history. 2023 is going to be an incredible year. I think we have about a window of about 6 to 12 months where there's going to be massive opportunity. And then in the next 5 years, we're going to see a massive wealth transfer. And that wealth transfer is going to be in the hands of people that didn't look like, the last wealth transfer, people like us, immigrants, people that come here from other places, women for the very first time are going to have a lot of wealth. And so this is everyone's time right now. And if you're listening to this, I think you're going to want to stay tuned to the end. Ron, you were talking about, or no, I think it was Mario that was talking about, hold up, before you share the gold, before you share the nuggets, let's get on air. But guys, I didn't come here to drop nuggets. I came here to drop bombs because God. What we're going to talk about are things that are going to change people's lives. And I'm excited. I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited to get going.
Yeah. So you've already pumped us up already. So let's just jump right in. Can't waste any more time.
There's no time to waste.
None to waste. Absolutely. Alfonso, you're an entrepreneur, speaker, author, philanthropist. Forgive me if I forgot anything else, but can you take us back to where it all started for you and talk about a bit about your life growing up here in Canada and maybe a bit about immigrant life as well?
Yeah, well, like I mentioned it before, there was no financial literacy in my household. We came here as refugees to Canada from Latin America. I'm actually from El Salvador. I had a really tough time integrating into the school system, education system. You see, I spent a lot of time in war from 2 to 9, we were in war, moving from country to country until we actually came back here to Canada. My mom, all she could tell me is, Alfonso, you got to go to school, right? Which the advice she was giving me works really well where I come from, right? Back home, you're not going to get anywhere without a degree. My mom said, listen, the best thing you could do in your life is get a university degree. And if you really want to be a high level achiever, you get a master's degree. And if you want to go to the pinnacle of life, you're going to get a PhD, right? The issue for me was I wasn't much of an academic. I just wasn't built for it, right? It didn't resonate. Anything that they taught in school, it didn't resonate with me, who I was. And now, we lived in the projects in Ottawa housing, and, the people around me, they weren't doing very well. And, a lot of people were very highly educated and, they're living just like us. My mom's got, 2 master's degrees, but we have no money. I can't buy Michael Jordans, And so, I started looking around me and the results, and I started thinking, maybe I could do something better, And these people that would come to our schools, they would say, you know what, you can do it. But they didn't look like me, And so, there was a lot of conflicts in my life. And ultimately, I got frustrated and left school. So now I'm 15 years old. I'm a high school dropout. I left home as well at 15. So now I'm living on the streets, homeless, going through some really dark times. I mean, we've all been through dark times. I mean, you guys have been through dark times. I mean, or everyone listening to this podcast or watching this podcast has probably gone through a dark time in their life. You can probably think about one right now when you're so angry. And I remember feeling so, so bad for myself. I had no self-worth. I had no confidence. I didn't believe in myself, and I remember being a victim, right? I'm like, why is this happening to me? I slept on the streets, and I'm like, this is everyone's issue. Like, everyone has made this happen for me, And so ultimately what changed everything, I had a life-changing moment in my life, and you guys met her. You guys had my daughter, Talia, on the podcast. And the second she was born, everything changed for me. When I was young, I remember being 12 years old, asking my mom where my dad was. And my mom's answer was simple. It's like, during the war, he left, never came back. And I remember thinking to myself, how is it that you have a son somewhere and you wouldn't reach out, or you just leave your son, And so I remember thinking about that and having issues like, I had some really dark abandonment issues because of it. And so when my daughter was born, this was my opportunity to change things. I didn't want to be that guy. And it gave me purpose, Now, I'm not saying you need to have kids to find purpose, but if you can find a purpose for whatever the goal is, you're going to become unstoppable. It's like determination. You're going to be determined. And determination is like, you're willing to do what you have to do when you have to do it, no questions asked. And so I needed to take care of this family. I needed to take care of my little girl. And so now I'm like, I found a new reason for living, right? No more excuses, no more blaming society, no more blaming the world. And so I went and got a job. And the problem with the job was that it was like $5 an hour. So you guys already can see how old I am. So $5 an hour. What's minimum wage right now? Isn't it like $15 or something? I don't know. It's like closer to 20.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So that's a long time ago. $5 an hour was minimum wage. That's how I started working. Wasn't going to cut it. Wasn't going to cut it. And what I did was I took my first paycheck and I went to Yonge Street from some street vendors or whatever. And I bought some jeans, some T-shirts or whatnot, $250 in total. And, probably all bootleg anyways. But I brought them to my locker in high school in Ottawa, which they'd never seen any of this stuff, And I remember I took a pair of jeans that I bought for $20 and I sold them for $60 to a kid in my high school, making a $40 profit. And so something happened up here to me at that moment. I discovered profit, right? And if you ask me, to go back and, to that little kid, that 17-year-old kid, to describe the feeling to you, I wouldn't even be able to describe it, but it was like goosebumps, And I knew that I was going to pursue profits for the rest of my life, right? And when I graduated at 19, I was that kid with the backpack, with something to trade, something to sell, always hustling, trying to do something, trying to make something happen, And at 19, and throughout this whole time, my vision was to open my very own physical location, right? And ultimately, when I started sharing that passion with people said, no, to start a store, you need to know what you're doing. You need to go get education. Some of the biggest naysayers in your lives will be people that share your same last name. My own mom said, you should go to university, it's not going to work, some of the people, in Ottawa, they're like, you know what? Hip hop is just a fad, it's not going to work, right? They're like, no one in Ottawa, there's no hip hop stores in Ottawa. And I'm like, that's exactly why it's going to work, because there's no hip hop stores in Ottawa. There's nobody servicing this clientele. And so, I managed to raise about $2,700 with friends. And to make a long story short, I turned those $2,700 into a company that was grossing in the millions. We became the number one hip hop clothing store in Canada, right? With locations all across Canada. We had one of the biggest Tim's selections in North America. We had people from the US driving just to see our Tim's, just to see the selection that we had. And so we built a pretty big business. The problem was I wasn't financially literate, right? So I'm 21 years old, making millions of dollars. And my idols, the people that I looked up to were like Russell Simmons, P. Diddy, people that were flashing more than investing. And so, the mindset and where I was at that time, there was no financial literacy. There was no one that came along and said, listen, Alfonso, you should invest your money, And so what did I do? I spent the money, I spent it on jewelry, cars, on living the baller life, And I quickly realized that, what? Businesses are up and down. And so when the times is good, it's really good. Shortly after 9/11, everything changed. New competition, the internet, people's buying habits changed. We had a tech bubble burst, which took away a lot of the capital from the streets. And so people didn't spend as much. All of a sudden, I find myself almost about to lose my business, right? So 21 years old, millions of dollars. I'm very much a consumer at that point. 24 years old, I'm about to lose everything. And I said, I have to do something about this. And so I started educating myself, right? I try to figure out who could help me. And I remember someone that introduced me to a book that I never had even read. And so I started reading these books. The first one was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The second one was Think and Grow Rich. And it just opened up my mind to possibilities of creating wealth. And it was a gateway to hundreds of other books that I've read since. But when I started to really educate myself on wealth, I discovered a few things. Number one, I was very much a consumer. We live in a consumer-based society. You need consumerism to keep the economy going. And, there was no one that looked like me that was investing. So I did what everybody else was doing. You know what I mean? Like Fat Joe had a big chain like this. I had a chain and I had a bigger chain that, that went over it. You know what I mean? Like, why? It's not even necessary. You know what I'm saying? And so what I did was I started to read about wealthy people. I discovered about investing. I discovered about the investor mindset. I discovered that, the wealthiest people in this world, they invest their money. They're not consumers, right? They sell to consumers. They invest their money into businesses and companies to build wealth from consumers. 96% of the people out there are consumers, and only 4% have this investor mindset. I also discovered that the wealthiest people in the world all have one thing in common: real estate. And so that was like an impression on me. I'm like, whoa, the idea of business and real estate, that gives you an unfair advantage over everyone else. You guys remember back in 2020, the presidential race in the US? You guys remember that? And it was discovered that Donald Trump only paid $750 in personal income tax. Do you guys remember how outraged people were? People were upset, like they were so upset. But I think the energy, by the way, put politics aside, but I think the energy was focused on the wrong thing. You know what people should have been saying? How can we do that for ourselves? How can we create wealth? How can we pay less taxes for ourselves and our families, right? And so there's legitimate ways of paying less taxes if you're wealthy, if you know how to leverage real estate and business together. And so most people, this is not taught in school. No one teaches that to us in school, because what they want from us is for us to be consumers and employees. And so I started reading this and it just blew my mind. And, I made a decision in my early 20s that I was going to be financially literate and I was going to build wealth through real estate. And that's how I started real estate. I started real estate in my early 20s. I realized the economy of scale. So I started in apartment buildings, right? I started buying apartment buildings. I just transformed everything, my mindset. I sold the jewelry. I mean, guys, look at my fingers. I'm not wearing any jewelry. You know what I mean? I used to have diamonds right here. Forget it. I'm all about investing, right? And I want to be a positive example for the people in my community. And I'm here to share. I'm here to give. I'm here from a position of service that anybody can do this. Anybody can do this, especially in Canada. You see, back home, you have classes. If you're not in that upper class, forget it. But here, and especially now in 2023, the average person can build wealth. Now, I started back in the early 2000s. I managed to build a portfolio that is now worth in millions, right? Hundreds of doors, apartment buildings all across North America. But now it's your chance. It's everyone's chance. Who's ever listening to this and you're not investing in real estate, or you haven't taken action, you haven't missed the bus. The window of opportunity has arrived.
Wow. I love that, Alfonso. That was a very inspiring story that you started us off there with. You mentioned earlier, achieving so much success between the age of, by 21, coming into millions of dollars in revenue. If you were to take it back to your younger self when you started investing in real estate, what sort of advice would you have for your younger self?
Like if my younger self was right here, right?
Yeah.
I would say, Alfonso, level up faster, right? I spent so much time playing small, right? Even though I am where I am now, I spent a lot of time being scared. I spent a lot of time questioning myself and belief, right? And belief comes from taking massive action and getting the results. Now, 23 years later, yes, I'm here. If I could go back and talk to myself, I would say, Alfonso, scale faster, move faster. Those people that, are holding your back, cut those ties faster, right? It was a transition. There was a lot of people that, I wanted to take with me. And I realized that I was just carrying people. Ron, how far could you get with someone on your back?
Not very far.
What about 2 people?
Oh my goodness, you're not moving.
What about 3 people?
You're dead.
That's what, like people from my neighborhood, like people that I grew up with, I'm like, guys, come, we can do this, and you just end up carrying people, and every step of the way I had to cut more and more and more and more ties. And I changed my habits. I stopped hanging around in the places where people were negative, where it was toxic, where it was gossip. And I started moving towards hanging around places where you find wealthy people, because I wanted to catch that virus. I wanted to be around the wealthiest people in the world because success leaves clues, right? And I'm only going to listen to the people that have the results that I'm looking for. But guess what? Everyone has an opinion, right? It's like the crab bucket. You ever seen the crab bucket where all the crabs are trying to get out and they're like, come back, stay with us, right? And then all of a sudden this gap, gets further and further, and those people get further and further back. And I remember people are like, Alfonso, we don't see you at the clubs anymore. I'm like, yeah, but I don't see you at the bank. I'm at the bank every day making deposits. I'm changing my life. I'm growing. I'm going to the next level. And so the advice that I would give myself, I would say, cut those ties faster. I would say, scale faster, grow faster, go bigger, faster. That's what I would say to myself.
Awesome advice there. It sounds like in the beginning stages when you're just getting started in real estate, you mentioned having to think about cutting people off. So it sounds like you went through a few challenging periods when you just got started. Could you share a time when you face a major setback or a failure in real estate investing, and how did you recover from that?
I made some big mistakes because even though I knew what I wanted, and like if you have a vision of what you want, there's always going to be mistakes because you're going to learn. Every time you learn, every time you level up, you're going to learn. You can't be afraid of mistakes. So I've made lots of mistakes. I've made lots of mistakes with businesses, business partners. I've made lots of mistakes with types of investing, that I've done. One thing I like about real estate is that time, and if you buy it right, time will erase your mistake. I think that real estate is forgiving in that way versus business. I'm not sure about hundreds, but definitely, around 50 different businesses or more. One day I'll sit down and talk about it or count it. But I made major mistakes in my life. To be honest with you, there's a lot of learning from mistakes, from setbacks. You learn nothing if you win all the time, And if you look behind me, there's a lot of different pictures of different businesses that I've had. I like putting it on the wall. You see, different things that I've had. And the reason I put that on the wall, just to remind me, sometimes I can get distracted. And what I've learned over the years is that not every opportunity is for me. And so at the very beginning, one of my biggest learning opportunities was that I would take on every opportunity, right? An opportunity would come in my way, and it would just distract me from, where I was going, right? And so that can be a setback in itself, just pursuing every single opportunity that comes your way. Like if someone walked into this office right now and had a apple pie with ice cream, that would be an amazing opportunity, but not an opportunity for me. You see, I'm trying to watch my weight, and that would not be an opportunity that I could partake in. And so, ultimately, the biggest learning that I could share with people right now is that once you set your goal, okay, and I had to learn this over time, and a lot of people it's going to take a lot of time. First of all, you got to try many different things to know what you like and what you don't like, right? So at the very beginning, when you're young, you can go high risk, right? Because you have time in front of you, right? But once you understand what you like and what you're good at and what's actually going to, create revenue and what actually works, then you start setting real concrete goals. And now your job is to make sure that every decision that you make is in alignment with that goal. Anything that you choose to take on that's no longer in alignment with that goal will distract you from where you're going. And so what happens is we get really great ideas. What about this? Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do this. And then all of these things are going to be distractions from where you wanted to be in the first place. And so the biggest setbacks for me have been times of distraction where I know where I'm going, but I'm like, oh, what about this shiny thing over here? Right. And it's brought me to another 3 years away from where I'm supposed to be going. So that's a really good question.
Right. I love that you called it out. We always talk about like being strategic and thoughtful about your goals, and then doing everything you can to try to avoid that shiny object syndrome. That's a lot of people.
We all get it. We all get it. Listen, this is what I tell people. When you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else, right? And so there could be an opportunity that you're saying no to just because you said yes to the first thing that came along.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that makes total sense. On that note, I know one of your mantras is success by design. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like maybe just share like what that means to you?
Yeah. So when I was growing up in Ottawa housing, right, everyone's broke, right? And, I remember, walking with my friends, coming back from basketball. And I remember looking at a building. I'm like, guys, like someone owns this building, and, my friends were like, that's just rich people, and probably some greedy person or, someone that, is ripping people off and, all of the things that, normal young people would say to one another. And ultimately, I put my life in the hands of other people, right? I was under the mindset that, life just happens, right? If you're born rich, you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, that was your fortune, that you're good, and this is the hand that I was dealt. I'm like a refugee here. What do I look forward to? Maybe I can be a cleaner, professional cleaner in my life, and nothing wrong with being a cleaner or being a laborer. But that's the life. That's the cards that you were dealt. Now, what I discovered later on is that we are in full control over our lives. We are in full control over our outcomes. And there's people that accept life, and there's people that make life happen. And that is success by design. The design part, and first of all, success part is success, whatever that means to you, right? Success is abundance, right? Success is, is being a leader in your community. Success is when your kids, want to hang out with you. Success is, being able to travel around the world. Success is being free. And that lifestyle can be designed, right? You can design the lifestyle that you want. You can design that lifestyle. You have full control. You have full control over your life. And so to expand on that philosophy, it's really about understanding what you want. And once you understand what you want, you have to know and understand who is the person that you need to become in order to be a magnet to the life that you want. But that person that you need to become, like who is it that you need to become? You can design that person. And it's like really getting down to the detail. It's like, you know what? If I had everything that I ever wanted in my life, who would I be? Who would I talk to? Who would I know? Who would I, what kind of books would I read? What kind of clothes would I wear? How would I wear my hair? What would I smell like? How would I walk? And so it's almost like designing a person in your mind, right? It's like a rebranding. And then the last step is simple. Become that person now. Become that person now. Because once you decide to become, you start attracting the right people, the right circumstances, the right ideas, the right joint ventures, the right business, the right everything to match the person you just become. And so the truth is while 96% of the people have excuses, 96% of the people out there have reasons on why they're not going to make it. They already gave up before they even started the game. Only 4% know and understand that, guess what? This 4%, the mindset is different. We are creating life. We are making it happen, right? And so that's success by design. That's the philosophy behind success by design.
I love that. Wise words to live by. Thanks for sharing. And so Ron touched on it earlier, but we obviously know you're somebody who wears many hats within your life. And so one of those hats is like being a coach and like a success coach. Like, what are some of the kind of like greatest challenges that you see like new investors like looking to break into the market? Like, what do they experience? Like, what are some of those top challenges? And then for an experienced investor that may have, call it, I don't know, 5 or 10 doors that are looking to level up to those apartment buildings, land development, and other strategies, like what advice would you give them?
Well, look, someone that has a little bit of success is almost worse off than someone that doesn't. Because the person that has a little bit of success, you know what? They're in contraction mode. They're holding on to the thing that they built because they don't want to lose it, right? It's too much to risk. While the person that has nothing to lose, right? And so they can take massive risks. And so the person that has a little bit of success, you know, they buy a 10 unit building or they have a few properties. Those people are more at risk than the people that are just getting started. If you're just getting started right now, you know, the very first thing that you got to do is get educated, right? So you don't build bad habits. Live in expansion so you can always expand more of who you are versus living in contraction, trying to save, be, you know, conservation mode, like trying to preserve what you've built, you know? Life is abundant, and, you know, you can expand to whatever, you know, you can do whatever, expand to whatever, create whatever you want. I was financially free at 30 years old. And before I turned 30, you know, I just briefly explained to you kind of my journey. You know, I was living on the streets, you know, build a really successful business, almost lost everything. Now I had to go back and rebuild everything. And, you know, I was in the trenches. Like, I was working 9 to 9, 7 days a week. You know, I would go on these holidays to Dominican Republic, you know, and 1 week resort vacations. Have you guys done that?
Yeah.
4 square meals a day. Right? At the end of it, you're like, you need a vacation from the vacation, you know? And I remember taking this cab, and, you know, the cab driver in Spanish, right? He's asking me, where are you from? You know? And I'm like, you know, well, originally I'm from Latin America, but, you know, I live in Canada. And he's like, you know what? All these Canadian people, like, they go and work so much, and they come here for 1 week, you know, and then they go back and work again to be able to come back here for another week. And he's like, I don't know why they don't just stay here. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. That's an amazing idea. Like, just live here, you know? And then I remember going to Bed Bath & Beyond and looking at these things that you put in your bathroom, these signs. And it says, one of them said, live a life that you don't need a vacation from, meaning your life is a vacation kind of thing. And I was like, that is so exciting. Like, that's exactly what I want, you know? And so I had this fantasy of what my life would look like once I've had all my time back, you know? Most people have this fantasy of just sitting on the beach for the rest of their life. You know, when you look at movies, you know, they sail into the sunset, or, you know, they're on the beach somewhere, and this is like kind of like their life for, you know, for the next 40 years. That is a fantasy that a lot of people have. But that's the fantasy that you have when you're in the trenches. Because when I turned 30 years old, I had that financial freedom. I didn't have to work another day in my life. I sold my company. My real estate could more than provide for me and my family for years and years and years and years, I did not have to work another day in my life. And so I booked a 2-week vacation. Now, if you've ever gone on a 2-week vacation, I'm just going to fill you in. The second week looks very much like the first week. In fact, it just happens all over again. And what happens is, that second week, the first day of the second week, I'm miserable. I'm like moping around on the resort. I'm walking around on the beach, just like, this sucks, And I realized that whatever fantasy I had in my head about living on the beach for the rest of my life was baloney. I didn't even want that at all. That's what I wanted when I was in the trenches. What I really wanted was life fulfillment. And being financially free didn't give me the life fulfillment. But now I have my time back, and now I can really dig deep and ask myself, what in the world is going to give me life fulfillment? And I could do so many things with my time, And I started thinking about all the different things that I could do for society. And, what it came down to is that I wanted to spend the rest of my life bringing as many people as possible to that one moment where they realize whatever the fantasy wasn't it. And now they're going to go on this quest to be fulfilled. Maybe they're going to give back to their churches, their communities. Maybe they're going to spend more time in teaching the next generation how to build wealth. And so I made a decision at 30 years old that I was going to dedicate the rest of my life to helping people achieve wealth. And that was like over 15 years ago. And since then, I've created thousands of millionaires, and not for the money, thousands of time, thousands of hours, thousands of people's, fulfillment of whatever they find that's important. Maybe they spend more time with their family. Maybe they spent more time at their church. And so my job is to get people to the next level. So if someone is getting started, you want to connect with someone that's already been there, right? This is why financial literacy, it doesn't work in the schools, because ultimately you have someone that is financially illiterate teaching you about financial literacy. It doesn't work. You need wealthy people that are going to want to go back and teach everyone else. And so we didn't touch on this, but I created in 2018, we created a youth foundation. It's called the Cuadra Youth Foundation. And what we do is we go and we teach young people, 12 to 17, all of these soft skills and financial literacy, how a mortgage works, how they would invest in real estate, all the things that we weren't taught in school. And so, what advice would I give someone getting started? Go and get some mentorship. But get mentorship from someone that has already done this, that has already walked the walk. Don't get mentorship from your buddy next door or Uncle Billy Bob that's never invested in his life. How are they going to be able to give you the advice that you need? You need mentorship and coaching from people that have done this before. And so if you are successful and you have a little bit of success and you have a little bit of properties, guess what? The amateurs don't have coaches, but professionals do. And that's how you're going to get to the next level. That's how you're going to be able to expand to the next level. So whether you're starting today and you don't know anything, get coaching, get mentorship, get educated. If you already have a few properties, get coaching, get mentorship, get educated. And it doesn't have to be from me. Go somewhere, find it somewhere, find someone that's doing what you're trying to do. And so, on my YouTube channel, I have, close to 1,100 videos that I've produced for free education, right? That people can go and see if they resonate with me. I'm a crazy guy. Maybe I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but get educated and get the right education, get the right mentorship, get the right coaching.
I love it. Those are powerful words to live by. You mentioned a while ago that, mentorship is so important when starting out, and, when even as an intermediate, you should definitely pursue coaching. Now that we're in a bit of a challenging time now, interest rates hikes every so often, we're looking at a looming recession at this point. How has when you think about your real estate portfolio, what are some challenges you're currently facing given the current market conditions? And, how do you see the market shifting in the next, 3 to 6 months? What opportunities are you seeing that investors should be looking for? I know we talked about that in the initial parts of the conversation, that this is the biggest wealth transfer time period that we're looking at. So what are those opportunities that you're seeing?
Listen, if you buy real estate the right way, when the market goes up and down, you're really relaxed, right? I have a question. When is it the worst time to sell a piece of real estate? Ron.
When the market's going down.
Okay. Mario.
Anytime.
I'm going to give you the answer. Okay. So you'll never forget this here. Remember, these are bombs I'm dropping here. I'm not dropping nuggets over here. The worst time to sell is when you have to. That's the worst time to sell. And so, what we teach our students and the philosophy and the formulas is, so you go out there and buy real estate where you never have to sell, right? And if you had to keep it forever, you would be fine. The problem is when people buy real estate and they're hoping the only way they're going to make money if the real estate goes up in value, they're speculators. They're not investors. And so people that get wiped out are people that bought incorrectly, people that are buying based on speculation, not actual numbers. They're not being investors, they're being consumers. And so the opportunities that are coming our way are really exciting. Every time there's an interest rate hike, there's less and less buyers, meaning more opportunity for us, the investor, meaning now you are able to, be flexible because you can't use the bank's money. You got to now figure things out. You got to be creative. And when you're talking about apartment buildings and multifamily and you're connecting with other investors, if you have a true seller and you have a true buyer, those two come together, you're going to have a purchase. Here's the perfect storm. You have interest rates going up. You have people getting scared. You have you said a looming recession, which in a recession time, who gets beat up? People in the money market and other asset classes. Everyone tends to run towards real estate because they want to preserve their capital, right? Real estate is the best way to preserve your capital. And so there's a 6 to 12 months window where everyone is kind of like scared, where you can go in and negotiate. And, the formulas that I teach my students and the negotiation strategies, you're going to be able to steal properties, right? And that's the opportunity. Now, if you set yourself up right now, you're going to be on a different trajectory of building wealth, where in the next 5 years, you have baby boomers, kind of retiring. And because of the lack of financial literacy, their kids don't want to take on those properties. And so you're going to have a massive wealth transfer. This next recession, it's going to be a recession like you've never seen it before. And it's going to take out a lot of people. There's going to be blood on the floor. And so if you learn how to situate yourself in the right way, you're going to be on the right side of that recession. You're going to be on the right side of that wealth transfer. right? Then that's why I'm passionate. That's why I'm here with you guys. That's why I want to shout it out to the world. I'm like, guys, this is the time. You just got to be equipped. You got to have the right people, the right capital, the right investors, the right education, the right coaching, the right mentorship, and you can tap in to one of the biggest opportunities that are coming our way.
Wow. Mic drop. That was,
that was the
great,
bomb.
great knowledge bomb there. Yeah. Awesome. Alfonso, this has been a tremendous conversation. We definitely keep talking for hours if we could, but really appreciate you joining us on the show today.
Listen,
before we let you go,
I appreciate you guys for what you guys are doing, right? You are leaders in your community and you're bringing massive value to the people around you. That's amazing, right? This is an incredible thing that you're doing. So like, I'm so excited. And when I saw my daughter on your show, that is why I do this, like it's you're giving of yourself. You're in a position of service and, you guys should be proud of yourselves.
Thank you so much for the kind words. But yeah, as I was saying, this has been a great conversation. Before we let you go, like any last parting words for our listeners, maybe you could just share like what's the best way for them to reach out as well.
Listen, if anything I've said here resonates with you, we're going to have a good time. All right. And so I'm traveling all across North America. If you go to Eventbrite and you type in Alfonso or Wealth Genius, you'll see all the events that I have. I'm not sure when this is going to be aired, but I'm sure there's a boot camp in a city near you. And so come hang out. Come hang out. At the very least, subscribe to my YouTube channel where I have 1,100 videos of content that you can digest. And if any of that resonates with you, reach out. Let's connect. DM me. I'm very Googleable. And so, I'll just leave it out there like that.
Nice. Awesome. Alfonso, thank you so much again for joining us. Really appreciate you sitting down and having a conversation with us. To our listeners, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Black Wealth Effect podcast. We'll catch you later.
We'll see you at the top.
Peace.
What was the one thing you heard today that inspires you to take action? Now plan to take that action in the next 24 hours. If you're looking for more support, ideas, or just want to connect with others like you taking action, join us in the Black Wealth Effect Facebook group. The link is in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Black Wealth Effect podcast.